Please join me in welcoming Carlos Bunga.
Hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm from Portugal. I live in Barcelona. Here in the gallery we have one piece that is a labyrinth. And the concept about labyrinth is something that is very universal, and it's something that everybody knows what that means, and have a lot of kind of different interpretations. But I really love the idea that this labyrinth could be like a journey, and I would love if this talk that I will go to give today here could be to have that energy about the labyrinth in the sense of a process. The creative process is a mix of emotions. We don't have answers about the things. We have always more questions about many kind of different things. And about that questions, I want to talk about my process. I want to that everybody can be a little bit engaged what I've been doing around these years. I started painting, but always I've been with the problems with my paintings. And because that, I did this video in 2000 that calls Behind. This is a canvas. This been in 2000. I put a zipper in this canvas. I opened this canvas and I've been inside of the canvas. Sorry because this happened. Okay. After this experience in painting, I was with these questions, many questions about space and about cities. At this point, I was very interested in urban spaces, and especially in the decayed spaces, spaces in ruins. I have always that sensation that I look for the cities that could be like a very big model. And I'm very interested in the urban transformation, because I think that we don't live only in the city. I really think that we are a fundamental part of this structure. These little drawings, you have here a frog. I think the city is like nature, is really a kind of organic place and in constant step of transformation. And the city, I always thought that the city without people, the buildings without people, it's a ghost space. What that means, I really think, for example, here in Detroit, that concept could be very interesting. We have in the city of Detroit a very strong story, and it's very interesting to look for all these empty buildings and try to think about this idea about ghosts. What that means, buildings without people not look sense, it's a ghost spaces. What is interesting is people is that kind of organism that I call sometimes that activate the spaces. People, it's really the important emphasis of the spaces. I live in Barcelona, in Catalonia, and in Catalonia we have something very special that calls the Castellers. That Castellers is a lot of people that I call that could be a very interesting expression of ephemeral architecture. I want to show you here a little video. Let me see. where we can have one idea what I talk about. This is very kind of traditional in Catalonia, where you have all these people who came together, and together with their body, they constructed this kind of building. It's really impressive. And when many times the people ask me if I'm architect or I study architecture, I said, well, no, I study painting. But I really think our relationship with the city is so strong, and for me it's very emotional to look at this kind of construction, because I really think here we don't have material, goods, we don't have physical material. What we have is really only the force of the people who make this construction about, we can call a building. Many people can say, this looks a building. But we have geometry, we have balance, and we have all these people together who make that construction. And that is possible about that sense about community and that sense about group. Sorry, because here. Okay, and that sense, for me, I really think also that our society is a very kind of a nomadic space, and I really think that I'm a nomadic. I really think that this space about the nomadic is something very special. And for example, these drawings, we have these drawings with with the hands of these drawings have some buildings. And if we look for these drawings, the attitude of these drawings looks an human attitude. Look, the attitude is like us. If we'll take away the body of the buildings, for example, the first one, if you take the body, it looks a normal building. But with that drawing, it looks like something very close to us. And that, for me, it's very interesting. I really think that architecture has the ability to influence and mold our brains so that we can believe in a utopia invited and accepted as a true. I really think that fictional reality where many things happen, the city, normally gives to us this kind of existential crisis between fiction and reality. Many times we don't know what is reality and what is fiction. I work with big installation at some points. I work with these site-specific interventions in spaces. And for me, in a pre-existential architectural space, I'm very interested in a temporal and emotional process. As well, that possibility that the space could work in a kind of a very experimental way. This image is a piece that I did in the Hammer Museum, in the entrance of the museum, where you have this huge intervention that calls landscape and have that relationship with painting. These kind of projects, I don't have plans. I work without plans, without models. I always have the necessity to travel the space, to see the space, and then return to my studio, and then to think about the project. Not is to make drawings or model, but is to think about the concept. When I found the concept, I go to the space, and I work in the spaces. Also, these pieces, they have this kind of energy about a model. A model is a kind of a projection of one idea, and I really love the idea that this kind of building, this potentiality, this kind of idea that we can have contact with them. Also, when I work with these kind of installations, because I don't have our drawings before I start with the installations, after to finish the installations, I make drawings. But these drawings always came after. What that means? That means that I try to make one reflection about my installations, and that drawings, what for me is very interesting is that I could take the gravity and to be more schizophrenic at some point, and the piece can grow up in a different way. These drawings, I really think is a kind of a document, but it's something that is more not is so close to the reality, but is more close to my interpretation. In that drawings, I can make reflection about the problems that I have in the space, reflections about the concept, reflections about many kind of different things that we don't have in the space. Here, for example, I have this drawing about a little city. There are some fragments about some objects, but that elements we don't have in the installations. This piece, for example, is a piece also that I did in Barcelona, in the MOCAD Museum. Is inside of a church. It's very interesting that we can talk or think about this relation about religion and art, because I think art could be a space also for meditation. And I want to show you this little video. Sorry, because this technology, let me see. Okay. Sometimes in my pieces, you can see here this is a very large installation inside of the building of the church, and after to finish the installation, I came inside and I make this performance. Some people, many times when I make my performance with this installation, the people start to make questions. Why someone could work so hard for so many days or a month, and in the day of the opening could collapse his installation? What that means, that's the sense that this one could make to have these aptitudes. I really think that we have that obsession about eternity. I really think what I make with these installations is accelerate the temporality of the objects. It's really intense, this moment. And here you can have the example. And here in this particular project, I like this relation that this piece I did inside of a church, because the church is a space of meditation, is a space of reflection, and it's a space where we can have that sensation that to be safe. You can see a little bit more, you put a little bit faster. Many times when people talk with me about the idea about death, I always talk the concept about death could be here, but I really love to talk about the rebirth, the possibility that the things could transform in another step. I don't think it's the end of something, but I think it's the possibility of transforming a different thing. Put a little bit, well, you have one idea. Take this. And, okay. And here in the museum, I saw this possibility to be engaged a little bit about my work, and here in the museum we have these labyrinths. In the piece here in the museum, I arrived in Detroit with this idea about the labyrinth, but without a specific dimensions, without a specific and concrete things for to make the piece. I take all the decisions here. It's a very difficult process. For the situations, normally when I work in the spaces, it's also a little bit abstract, because when we ask one artist, well, you need to send us drawings, models, and someone says, I don't have. It's very abstract. And sometimes it's like something that we don't understand. But another way is very important that the situation needs to trust with the artists. And I really think it's very important the institutions to accept the risk, to accept the space could be a space for a laboratory, and to take risk is to accept that step more experimental. And I think that it's very important for one situation, and because that also I'm very happy that the museum here really trusts in my work, and will give me total freedom to make English about this project that been a theory before to start work here, and then I've been working in the space and it started to open. I can show you here a little bit these time lapse that you can have a little bit the idea of what's happened when I start work here. That I want to say I don't have these models or drawings. The things is this process in between rationality and intuition, and a very strong relation with the space. That is very important. That strong relation with the space is something that is very important when I'm working in these kind of projects. It's the first time that I make something in circle. I'm a little bit worried before to start because, well, how what will happen? But I think the piece works very well. And it's very interesting when we talk about labyrinth. This piece is the piece that invites the public to be inside. The idea not is a space that you can be lost. I think this is a kind of a journey, or kind of rules. I can call it kind of a ritual that we can walk around, and in a very easy way we can arrive at the center. I love the idea that in the center we can find a monster, and the people can say, "What is the monster?" I took the monster because I like the metaphor about ourselves. What that means, always we have inside of ourselves some questions and some taboos and some things that we don't talk about. To be in the center, or to arrive in the center is in some way, in a metaphor way, to make that confrontation about that questions. Who I am, where I go, many things that I don't want to talk about. And I really love also the piece that have that metaphor also about life. And another thing, I really love the idea about the mirror idea, because I think this piece has this kind of a mirror, kind of a reflection about the building, but also about the city of Detroit in some points. It's very interesting that also this kind of mirror always is present. In my piece is always this concept about abstraction is there. When I start to make a little sculptures or the big pieces always, you have some kind of abstraction there. It was not something so specific. And I really love, when I make these little houses, I don't make like a windows, the door. It's more abstract because I think when we have a piece that has this kind of abstraction, it's a very democratic piece. It's a piece that will be more open to a kind of different interpretations. And I hope for this piece everyone will enjoy it. This piece, I think, is a piece that invites everyone to be inside. Any kind of different people, kids, old ones, everyone can enjoy the piece and can have a kind of, I think, a very subjective and personal experience. Because I think everyone think in a different way or have different sensations. And it's very interesting that when we be inside of the piece, we can feel many things. Another thing that is for me very interesting is when we look for one painting in the wall, we have many times these very kind of contemplative attitudes. And I really like to think about Rothko, that many times talk that he wants is that the people to be so close. And when we are so close, you can feel and be inside of the piece or the painting. And in this kind of pieces, really we don't have that contemplation for to be very close. We are inside. We really can smell, we can walk, and I think it's very interesting that we can have that physical experience in the space, and our physicality can be activated when we are inside of the piece. Thank you so much.